Hey there, guys. Um, let's see. I suppose first I should apologize for my ridiculous appearance. I took a shower last night, so when I wake up, my hair looks like crazy. Um, oh yeah. Um, I spent most of the morning sorting typeset, which is what this was for. It's sort of a cheap dust mask because this stuff here. I mean, I've shown it in previous videos, but if you haven't seen them, little pieces of letters used for printing presses. I buy and sell them on eBay mostly, but I do some in-person deals as well. It's how I pay my rent during the winter, especially considering my job prospects are not 100% at my usual place of employment, so uh, better getting gear when it comes to making money now, right? um, I just wanted to talk about, really the silliness of a shoe policy at certain businesses. I mean, I see people saying, you need shoes for safety, and to a normal person, and when I say normal, I mean a person that generally wears shoes. That may seem reasonable, mostly because that's what you're trained to believe from a very, very young age. I remember being in places where I was younger, and they said, "Now, you have to be safe now, so keep your shoes on." So it's a little bit indoctrinating, really. But to a person like me, that's especially odd and just counterintuitive, really. Um, I, as you know, don't wear shoes, and that's not like when it's warm weather, or that's not like an on the beach kind of thing. This is like abandoned buildings in the snow. I literally don't wear shoes. Um, I find shoes to be a tremendous handicap, and as many studies have shown, actually dangerous to your long-term health and can cause several problems from flat-footedness to back pain to arthritis in your knees, and hammer toes. The list goes on. So really, they're just not worth it. They form dependency over time because the muscles begin to atrophy because they haven't been used properly because the shoe doesn't allow your feet to function as they're designed to. There's this long list of negative consequences that really is just not worth paying to have. Um, you know, I was at an old factory with my father recently, and we were there under circumstances that were purely benign, for exploration, photography, that sort of thing. Uh, but it was one of the places where you're not really allowed to go. Uh, so we had to get in uh, using some interesting tactics. Uh, we were near a railroad that was next to this old factory, and we were able to slip in, run down the hill, fairly steep hill, and then jump into a window, an open window. We're not going to dive through glass because that's just silly. It's also destruction of properties, and that's not what we're about. So we go in here, and this absolutely gorgeous building. It's really a shame that it was being demolished, but you know, it's gonna happen, right? Um, so we were gonna get some cool pictures of this place, because we do have a tremendous appreciation for old architecture. Um, so we first get into this building, and the building we're first in is actually being demolished. Not actively when we're there, but like it's in the process of being torn down. Like there are walls that are missing, there are piles of bricks all over the place. Literally looks like a war zone. Something that I don't have the frequent opportunity to take pictures of. So I was very happy that I was able to. Um, we were like looking for a way where we could get out of this building and into the main one without being seen because there was a road right next to us. Um, there were piles of bricks around, from parts of the buildings that have collapsed and caved in and that sort of thing. So it gave us a bit of cover, but there were still about 40 feet. And when I say 40, I mean it's probably more like 60 or 70, but I'm a terrible judgment of distance when it comes to feet, ironically. Um, so we were in this building looking for places to get out. Um, so we find a small little opening, and we look off about 15 feet that way, and there's another opening to the building that we didn't have direct access to from the first room. We get in there, and we sprint, and remember, no shoes on, sprinting over broken bricks, glass, nails, splinters of wood. The building was demolished in part, so every kind of thing you can expect in a building pulverized and all over the ground. We're sprinting over this. Naturally, my father wanted me to go first. He's getting on in years, and that's certainly understandable. He also knows that if I can do it really really well, then there's not as much of a problem. Um, so I sprint across and get into this next room, take some more pictures because it's really just a very photogenic area. Um, this room that we've got into has no outlet except for a partially open garage door, which is bulged toward us. This led me to believe that perhaps there was a significant weight on the other side and it would not be prudent to open the door. Um, Nevertheless, we tried, and we grabbed this garage door and lifted as hard as we could. First thing that happens is a bunch of stuff that was resting on the partially open garage door. You know how it retracts into the ceiling, like glass and some kind of masonry stuff hit the ground and just blew apart. Um, thank God the building's being demolished, because that would make us feel very bad if that weren't the case. So we then start to dig our way out. So we're moving all these materials out so we can kind of squeeze underneath the door as far as we can open it, because it's been busted off of its tracks in several places, so it could only open so far. So we both kind of like slink our way out a little bit, and we move along the wall, because we're behind a big pile of bricks at this point from where the road's concerned. And my father runs across first, because he was the first one through the door. And he said, and he'll signal me when it's clear. So at this point, I'm like ducking next to a pile of bricks, like looking around. I'm feeling like I'm in World War II or something. And I was a World War II reenactor for a little bit, so that was kind of a cool feeling. Um, so I run across what is basically like the closest thing to no man's land that I'll probably ever experience. Just piles of bricks and twisted metal and just everything all over the place. And I'm just sprinting across this. And my father's looking at me like this. Because, he knows how extreme some of the things that I've done without shoes are. But he had never seen something quite that ridiculous. And I finish off the sprint with a slide on my right foot, and I slid along the concrete and kicked off a few bricks off of the edge of what was the foundation of one of the buildings. And so I slid off the edge and down into this little trench area where he was, and I'm like, all right, well, let's go find our way into the next building. We then ran again across this, wasteland. It's something I really enjoy. I love exploring these types of buildings. And we run in, jump through a window. So we're walking around this place, and the first thing we see in this room is a very dark tunnel. Now, that's not part of the actual building. It just seems to be connecting perhaps the other building by an underground system. So my dad's walking through the flashlight. I'm walking through no flashlight, almost pitch darkness. And he's saying, why don't you have your flashlight? And I'm saying, well, I can feel my way around. Now that sounds odd to people who don't quite know what I'm talking about when they haven't done that themselves. But when you don't wear shoes, you can really have a tremendous sense of where you are. So I'm walking down this hallway with him, and he said, now watch out for this glass, and then I immediately step on it, and you just hear, I said, oh, this glass, and then I just kind of twist my foot, and he's like, Yes, that would be the glass that I'm referring to. Um, we walk down this hallway and find out that it unfortunately ends in a cave-in, so we were not able to explore that any further. Um, so for the next several hours, we're going through this building. We are, running around. We are stepping on everything imaginable. I didn't get cut, shockingly, which brings me back to my point. How the hell do you think that if I go through something like that, that a restaurant is any danger to me, or an art museum, or let's see, maybe a school building? I mean, anything like that just seems absolutely outrageous. Um, you know, and on the note of I believe shoes are more of a handicap, I saw my father on more than one instance slip and hurt himself. Not badly, of course, but just like a little slip. Um, I feel like wearing shoes overall kind of just sort of cuts you off from where you are, and it really heightens your risk of injury. And it's just not worth it. Um, Either in monetary cost or just long-term damage to yourself. It's just not worth it. Um, Also, for those of you who enjoy sneaking through these old structures, to appreciate their architecture, I don't condone any sort of vandalism or thievery or destruction of property. That's not what I'm about. I have a tremendous appreciation for history, which is one of the reasons that I like to go to places like this. So if you're about that as well, I'd give yourself a little time for conditioning before you're running in there without shoes on. But they give you a tremendous edge when you're being stealthy. Um, I actually did a project where I was, it was one of these photography projects that I work on, and the character that I was doing had boots on, and I was walking through Fort Mansfield, a place that I'm extremely familiar with, and have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours doing restoration work on. More cleanup than restoration, really. I suppose I should have said cleanup. Um, so I was walking around this place, and I felt like I had bricks on my feet. I was walking around, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't be silent. It was ridiculous. Sure, boom, boom, boom. It's, it's it was completely outrageous, and I mean, it's Fort Mansfield. Anyone can go to it. It's not a place that's like, fenced off or you have to be stealthy. But I mean, just as the only abandoned building I've been in without shoes, I mean, with shoes on for quite some time, that's the only example I can provide. Um, you know, 9 times out of 10, I'm in there. And when I say 9 times out of 10, I mean every time except for one within recent years. Um, I've been there without shoes on, making no sound at all. You know, I'd hear people up on the upper levels of the fort talking, and I would come up through some of the areas that I know because I have a almost encyclopedic knowledge of the fort's architecture, and I'll just pop up and I'll give them a little bit of an explanation on what the fort is. Where what war it was from. How long it took to build, what went here, what went there, things like that. But back to the shoe policy. I mean, really, really, you think it's dangerous to me that I'd be walking around in a place without shoes on when the places that I go, most people would be afraid to go with shoes on. It just seems simply outrageous. And I mean, if videos like the ones that I occasionally post on here were more popular, perhaps those the absolute ridiculousness of those policies might be exposed a bit more. I recently posted a video from that same day of me going through all those buildings where I found a plate of glass on the ground. No idea how it got there, but I stepped on it, snapped the thing in half. No injuries at all. I think my limit is 15 minutes for a video, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here, you know, for fear of losing this entire recording. So I will wish you goodbye then.